Alright, this week we're going to go with a Dual-Winged Trico spinner. I don't do the midge stuff anymore. I don't tie them. So, theory behind this, I mean, it's the same thing with, fishing a size 16 Griffith's gnat through a midge hatch. I mean, you're not going to find a midge in a size 16, but the midges cluster up, and then the Griffith's gnat will imitate that cluster. You can fish that right through a midge hatch, no problem. It's the same theory behind this one. It would take something really special for me to tie anything under a size 20 these days. I mean, I still have some hooks from back when I was younger, where I mainly only fished dries and nymphs. I mean, that was really the only type of fishing I did back then. But I mean, there for a while I was going down to, I think I had 28s, maybe 30s, I can't remember, but I mean, I was tying on nothing essentially. You hook one fish, it straightens the hook out, and it just pisses you off. And I mean, there's some ugly flies too. I mean, you go tying that small, it's tough to really make a good looking fly. So I got away from them, and then there for a while when I was fishing the Tricos a lot, especially back on the Little J. That time of year typically, I mean, your water really starts getting low, starts getting crystal clear. And even with how small those flies are, I was still doing well with this. And this is on a size 16, but it's just representing like a Trico cluster. And it's you don't have to frustrate yourself with the size 22s and 24s. So this is what I stay with. We're going to do this one on a 16. I'll do these 16s, 18s, maybe 20s, but mostly 16s and 18s. And like I said, I feel like I pick up just as many fish, if not more, and I don't have to worry about tying on something that's barely visible. Let me get zoomed out just a little bit. So we'll get going on this one. Out here on the Missouri, you go driving, drive up and down 15 alongside the Missouri or the frontage road in July, August time frame, and your vehicle is just going to be, your windshield, bumper, everything is just going to be absolutely covered with these things. There are so many Tricos on that river. So it's definitely, I mean, if you're going to be out there this time of year or that time of year, make sure you have a couple of these in your box. To start on this, it was just GSP 50 in white, and make sure I got my marker around here. I don't. There we go. White GSP in 50. If you want, you can honestly do this just all thread body if you want, but you do that and you run the risk of catching a tooth in there and it tears it up. If you do all thread, go ahead and throw some zap down first. But we're going to just dub this one today. And to start, I have just a, let me see the little neck we got here. This is just a half neck done Grizzly. When you put it on the hook, the majority of it's white. So I like to use this for the tail. If you look at these Tricos, they're 90% tail and wings. For as small as they are, they have some good sized wings on them. So I'm going to go with probably 1.5 times the length of my hook for the tail. Get in there. Like I said, these spinners especially, they have some pretty long tails, and this is going to be the female version, to where they have the white and black body, or the white abdomen and the black thorax through the wing case and everything. The males, they're more like a darker olive into the almost black, depending on, they're going to vary from river to river a little bit, but we're going to go with the white and black today. So I just have 3 strands on there, and this is completely omittable if you want. I'm just splitting these 3 strands, and I'm gonna just have them. If you look at the tail on the Trico, you have the 2 really long off to the side, and then there's 1 straight down the center. What this does more so than anything, because it is a smaller fly, all this does is it gives you a little bit more surface area to catch the water, and it keeps you from breaking through, because we're not using any hackle, we're not doing anything like that. We're just going to use some body wrap actually, and dubbing is the only thing that we're using. So flotation can be, it isn't really an issue, but sometimes it can be a little difficult. So all I did was I worked through these fibers here, and I'll just pick this one up so you can see it a little bit better. There's the tail that we're after. It just has those 3 distinct fibers, and if you want to, I mean, you can just run this straight back. If you don't want to take the time putting these in and sorting them out, by all means, just throw, 3 to 5 fibers back there, tie them in, tie it off, and you're done. But I don't know, I just like the way that this looks, and like I said, it gives you a little bit more surface area that catches the water. And that one, the 2 on the outside are kind of standing up, and the ones in the center is kind of going to the bottom. I don't think I'm going to lose any sleep over that. Fill this out just a little bit more, and then all I'm going to do now is pick out some, this is light Cahill dubbing. You can use pure white if you want. This is more like a cream color, but either one will work. Just whenever you dub this in here, I mean, you're gonna see, I'll zoom in and show you the actual dubbing rope that I'm gonna use here, and it's hard to distinguish between that and my actual thread. So I'll just pick this up and I'll zoom in real quick if it'll allow me. We'll stay below. So there we go. There's the dubbed portion, and I apologize if it's not coming in too clear. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm kind of squinting to see the monitor. But there's just my regular thread, and then there's the dubbed portion. It's almost no material whatsoever, but it's just enough to get you the color that you're after, and fill out your body slightly. There is a slight taper to these. I don't worry about it too awful much. As long as I'm in the ballpark with, I don't have just a really thick abdomen section and a really weak thorax. As long as it's, like I said, in the ballpark, that's all I'm after. I don't get too crazy about the taper on these Tricos. And there's all sorts of noise going on out there, people ripping around all over the place. Alright, so with these wings right here, I started using these on some spinners here not too long ago, and I like it because it has that little bit of UV in there. I just like that little bit of flash, and really all this is just Z-Lawn in the center. I mean, that's all it is. And I like that little bit of flash that comes with it. Especially if you get a really bright day, and that little bit of reflection sometimes can be the key. So as you see there, I mean, all I did was I took out one section, and there went some of my flash. I just took out the one section. That still has a little bit in it, and then I just pulled that out, and then I'm going to use that for both of my wings. So right where I left off, probably at the 1/3 point on the back side is where I'm going to stop with my white or cream, whatever it is that you're using. And then I'm just going to tie these in, and I'm going to leave it right as it is. Come right in front of this wing section, and all I did was just figure eight right over top of that, just to hold my wings in place. Everything's nice and neat, it's clean, it's going away from the eye of the hook, so when I tie the remainder of this stuff in, it's not going to be in my way. Now, same thing with the black. I'm going to use black for the thorax portion. Use very minimal material on this again. I mean, you don't want to be dubbing a ton of material through here. It's just going to make things, one, it's going to trap water, and it's going to make this thing really tough to float without a ton of floating. And actually, I got one little piece in there that was just too much, so I'm going to rip that out and start over. There we go. And it's going to wind up causing a little bit of a mess there. So, just get this black dubbed on here. And we'll work this through part of the thorax. Now I can peel my wings back a little bit and make sure that I get right on this section so I have a nice distinct break between the black and the white. And I'm just going to run this over top here, and then I'm going to stop. As you can see this, zoom in a little bit, I'm stopping just shy of the eye of my hook. Probably, this is the last material that I'm going to throw in here, is this last wing case, and then a little bit of dubbing. So you can get a little bit closer to the eye than you normally would if you're throwing in hackle or, you know, extra material. You can get a little bit closer and still get away with it. Just don't rush it too much to where you're not going to have any room to whip finish, or, you know, your dubbing's going to go crowding the eye of your hook. So now with this one, I'm just going to wrap this around, make sure that I'm zoomed out enough here. Come on. Having some technical difficulties here. I'm just going to wrap this one around my thread like so, and I'm going to pinch that material, and I'm going to place this right where I want it. I'm not tightening down with my thread at all. I just have this in place. I'm going to manipulate this how I want it to get my wings sitting right, and then I'm just going to figure eight right over the top. Now it can get a little difficult getting in between these wings. If you have to, rotate on the other side, tie from the underneath side, and then that way you're not reaching across the fly. You're still able to see what you want to do. And once I get this other camera angle up and running, this is going to be so much easier to see what I'm talking about, because I know I'm facing away from you guys right now. But there we go, we got the figure eight. I got my wings set in how I want them, and these two always like to battle one another a little bit, but I'm just going to make one more figure eight right around this. Get out of there. One more figure eight. Come through my other set of wings, and then same thing, one figure eight over here. I'm catching all sorts of stuff here. There we go. The biggest thing that I'm after on this is that I have two sets of distinct wings, and once I start trimming this up, it's going to look a lot cleaner, and it is going to be a lot more distinct. Get around there. Alright, now the only other thing that I want to do is I want to take and clean up that underside just a little bit. There's just the slightest amount of white thread under there. So I'm going to make one figure eight with some black dubbing right over top of my wings. Once again, using very little material. Those two right there just don't want to play nice. There we go. Just enough to get some black dubbing over top of my wings and then on the underside as well. Actually, I just want that one good wrap. And there we go. I'm going to whip finish this. Just enough black dubbing to where it's going to cover up that little bit of white thread. Then I'm going to go ahead and whip finish. If you want to, you can throw a little bit of glue on there, head cement, whatever it may be. Whatever you prefer. Now I'm going to move these two wings out of the way. Make sure that I have these distinct sections. And then I'm going to start trimming. Now this is where you can get carried away and you can buzz up a fly really quick and it winds up going into the junk pile. When you're doing this, really just take your time. I still want these wings to be pretty wide because like I said, I mean the majority of this fly is tail and wings. The bodies are really tiny, and for all the bigger they are, they have some pretty good sized wings. So all I'm going to do is just kind of make a quick half moon trim around these two, and then the same thing, I'm going to flip it on the other side and I'm going to make another half moon around on these two. Get those out of the way. A couple on the underside that are making a little bit of a mess too. So now I'm going to go, before I trim these up even more, I'm going to go in between my two wings, and there's always some cross-directional fibers that wind up wanting to touch, and I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to go right between these two wings, and I'm just going to work those materials out slightly, and you'll be able to see the difference here when I flip this over on the two. Look how much more space there is now. It's so much more distinct on this side than it is the other. So then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flip it toward me. Get those two out of the way. If you can, always flip it toward yourself. Don't go trying to cut these wings, you know, with the scissors pointing toward you. I mean, it's really awkward and really tough to get good control of your material. So then I'm just working through here real slow, making sure that I have my two distinct sets. And then just kind of clean some of this stuff up that's in the front. And then if you look at the spinners, the front section is usually closer to the body, and then it kind of fans out as it comes back. Being that we're working with smaller wings and you really don't have a ton of material to get that overall shape, I'm really cautious when I'm trimming these fronts, because like I said, you can go away, you can trim this to the point to where you have no wings whatsoever before too long. Now same thing, I'm just going to kind of fan this edge out on this back side. And at this point, I mean, this is way more trimming than you actually need to do. I'm getting a little bit into the weeds on this, just trying to clean these things up and make them look good. But I could have stopped a good while back, and this thing would have fished just the same, I promise. Just rounding off these wings, making sure that I still have the same length on both sides. Things still look pretty clean. And I'm going to call that good. We're going to say that's going to do it right there, because I'm afraid if I go trimming too much more, that as I say that, I see something else that needs trimmed. Alright, that's where I'm done. I'll stop. But there you have it. There's the Dual-Winged Trico spinner. Like I said, these days I almost refuse to tie anything below 20. I mean, it's just, it's really a pain in the ass. It really is. And like I said, you wind up straightening out hooks and all that. I said that I was done. I couldn't help myself. But there is, like I said earlier with the body wrap, I started using that over regular Z-Long. I just like that little bit of shine to the wings whenever you know, you get those really sunny days. Sometimes you get that reflection off of the light, and they do, the naturals, well, most spinners do have that little sheen to the wings. So that just kind of helps represent that a little bit more, and that's what I really started using a lot. But I mean, like, it is very accepting of you know, any floating. Like if you use your ginks or whatever it is, I'm probably dating myself on that one. I don't even know if they sell that stuff anymore. But any of your dry fly floatants, I mean, it is pretty accepting, and this thing does fish pretty well, does float pretty well. Not as well as some, obviously, if you're using like the foam bodies and everything, but being a small fly, I mean, it floats well. It's rather durable, and like I said, you don't have to tie 24s and below. But hopefully this helps you guys out. Hopefully it puts a couple fish in the net. But if you have any questions or comments on it, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next fly.